Welcome to the Porn Reboot podcast, where you get practical tips to gaining control over your porn or sex addiction. We help ambitious men end their out-of-control sexual behavior with pornography, sex, and masturbation so that you can maximize your life, perform at your potential, and remain in control in the driver's seat, which is where you have to be in order to gain or maintain the success you want in life. I'm your host, J.K. Emezi, certified sex and porn addiction recovery coach. Welcome to the episode. I told my girl I wanted to bang sexy women. That was the title of the newsletter that I sent out a few days ago. And this newsletter was talking about a video that I actually shot with my girlfriend of 16 and a half years on a beach in Florida, where we open up about our relationship, and I interviewed her and asked her basically what it was like to be in a relationship with a man who had been a porn addict for most of his life. That is, yours truly. So we were talking about a lot of very vulnerable topics, and since I've released two of those videos, there were two separate interviews, a lot of men have sent me messages and said that they found it, very helpful. Now, I told my girl I wanted to bang sexy women. That was the subject of the email. And I received an email back. In fact, this email didn't come to me. It came to one of the gentlemen on our leadership team, Han. And Han sent it to me. And I will read this email out to you, and I'm going to share my response because many of you share this gentleman's point of view. He says, Han, listen, you're closer to JK than I am, of course. Please share with him that dating 16 years in is not a brag. Not married, JK is not a man to follow. 16 years just dating his woman is not the goal, and it sucks to see that he's so proud of it. It's easy to date that long. Get married, have kids, or some sort of family unit. You're a boy, JK, unable to commit, and you gloat about 16 years dating. Poor woman. Ha. I won't share the guy's last name, but his first name is Brandon. Now, when I receive an email, one of the first things I do is I go into our database because I try to respond to as many emails as possible and to find out who this gentleman is. I just try to find out who the person is. So, you know what I'm going to do, gentlemen? I'm going to read out, and I'm not going to share anything proprietary about this gentleman, but I will read out the email I sent him. And there are a few lessons in here for some of you. So my response was, Han forwarded your message to me, so I assume he would want me to respond. I appreciate your response, mainly because I was not sure what to talk about this week, which, by the way, guys, is true. I've been so busy with a few other things. I was like, man, I really need to put out a podcast. I have so many topics. I just don't know which one to pick. And Brandon helped me out with this. But before I begin, we have to set some things straight. My priority is helping you. And as far as I'm concerned, this message is a cry for help. And I truly believe, gentlemen, that this is a cry for help. Having done this for 13 years, I get all kinds of mean messages from people. I get inappropriate pictures sent in response to my newsletter. I get people sending me racist messages. For those of you who have never seen my face and are podcast listeners, I am a black man. So I get racist messages, people calling me the N-word, people saying all sorts of things about me, my mother, my family. This is just normal. It is what it is. I was a door-to-door Bible salesman for like 11 years. I can handle this shit. But, what I've learned over the years, despite some of the anger this might bring up, is a lot of these people who send these mean things are deeply unhappy. And they're doing this from a place of deep hurt, and they're projecting a lot of their pain. And by receiving all these messages, I have been able to become a much better coach, a much better man, and better able to help my clients. So in our database, here's the crazy thing. This gentleman joined our program in January of this year, and he was unable to complete the program. And that is because he recently signed for bankruptcy. He's divorced. He just got divorced. I don't know if he lost his daughter in custody, but he has a daughter, I believe, out of this marriage. And he's been a porn addict for 20 years. So basically, Brandon, you filed for divorce. Basically, your marriage failed. Therefore,
it would be fair to assume that your opinion about relationships is irrelevant. Your daughter is now going to grow up in a broken home and be impacted by this one way or the other. And the cherry on top is that you have struggled with this behavior for 20 years. Okay? So, a broke, porn addicted, divorced father whose little princess is probably going to grow up with daddy issues due to his life decisions, which also, based on the message he sent me, you know, he also seems to be an asshole. Not cool. Now, to most of the world, gentlemen, that would not be an example of a man, unfortunately. When you're divorced, when you're bankrupt, when you lost your kid, when you're a porn addict, and when you're very angry and isolated, you would be called a loser by most people. Or that's what they would say in their heads. Unfortunately, or rather fortunately, I don't think that's the case. I think this is the reality for most men in the United States. I'm not saying most men in the United States are losers. I'm just saying that most men in the United States are going through this pain. And I have an incredible amount of compassion for men who are going through this. I believe, and I want everybody who's listening to this to hear this, if you have friends or family members who you see make what you think are bad decisions and you're judging them, you're going like, yeah, he did this and he did this, and I knew he was going to lose his relationship to Jenna. I knew this was going to happen. I knew they were going to get broken up, all these things. Listen, you and I, only a few bad decisions away from ending up in that man's position. And you know the crazy thing? It has nothing to do with whether we are married or not. So, Brandon, if you're listening to this and all the other men who are Brandons in their own way, you are not any of those things. You are not a loser, and a divorce or losing your kid or what happens to your kid, all these different things may have played a role in the past, but they do not define who you are today. But here is what you are. And this doesn't just go out to Brandon. This goes out to those men who feel the same way, who look at somebody and say, you know, you're this, if you're not married, if you don't have kids, if you're not all these things, they imply these other negative things about you. You are insecure, and that's because you choose to shit on another man's decision to not be married. The truth is, when we do things like this, we only do it to feel better about ourselves. If I started putting out podcast episodes saying that men who are married are deluded and that men who make the decision to have children are irresponsible because in today's world, with the prevalence of divorce, you're not doing yourself, your partner, or your kids, you're doing them a disservice, in fact. I mean, that would be a horrible thing to do. I would not want to do that. But I do believe that people who do and say things like that do it to feel better about their own decisions. Now, if you've lost your kid in a marriage, if your marriage has fallen apart and it hasn't lasted up to 5 or 6 years, I want to say that I'm sure you did your best to save your marriage. We have men in our program who have lost their marriages and relationships, and they did not go down easy. I mean, they fought for this shit. They did their best. They did their best to be the best father, and they're still doing their best to be the best father. They're doing their best and still doing their best to be the best provider. The hardest part was the relationship part, because you can only influence in that area. You cannot control. So, for this brother, maybe you're still grasping desperately to that belief that real men, quote unquote, have kids, a family, and are married, even though that reality did not work out for you. And sometimes as ambitious men, we have a tendency to double down on our dreams. And you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right that real men have kids and a family and are married and so on. But either way, whether you're right or you believe you're right, what is happening is that repressed reality, which you worked so hard to build up, is under attack by my reality. By my reality, I don't mean JK's reality. I mean another man's reality, a man who lives a different way from you do. So you can't understand how a man can be happy, can be rebooted, can be in a long-term relationship with a woman who is equally happy and not married, and then not have kids, and not have what is considered to be a typical family unit, because it threatens the reality that you worked so hard to build. And what I've seen is that the men who are the most curious, the most invested, the most emotional about my life decisions and the life decisions of other men are those who were unable to have that reality for themselves. It is the men who were unable to keep their kids or be the best father to their kids or to have kids or to keep that woman that they wanted or to keep a happy relationships. They are the ones who are most critical. So in your fragility, you lash out. And I get it. So to the Brandons of the world, I want to make it clear that my version of happiness doesn't make me any less of a man. And it certainly doesn't make you any more of a man. What it does make me is a man who chose his own path to happiness. So this is one of the core values you develop as a rebooter: autonomy, free will, the ability to critically think, and happiness. Now, I'm not saying that I am more right than you, brother. I'm saying that I'm a grown-ass man who made his own values and decisions. Through his suffering, I went through suffering, and I put this together for myself, and it worked for me. I had the courage to live by them, and my decisions have led to a relationship that has outlasted many of my married peers, many of the people who got married after, during, and slightly before I got into a relationship are either not married, have lost their spouse, are dead, or are unhappily married. And don't get me wrong, there's some who are very happily married and they live beautiful, picturesque lives. My point is, life, God, the universe had plans for all of them. I actually want to take a moment to shout out to my brothers who are passed. I really mean that. I have friends who did not make it. I have friends who have never had the pleasure of having sex, of being married, of having children. I have a very close friend of mine, one of my best friends, Bobby, who lost his life in an accident in Texas. Very promising, grew up with me, went to boarding school with me, protected me from some very bad things when we were in boarding school. And he died. Makes me emotional. I haven't talked about him for many years. But he didn't get the opportunity. And when I see guys shit on other guys for the decisions they make, now, I'm not committing a crime. You're not committing a crime. We're not hurting other people. But to come out of the woodwork and say, another man you're a boy, you're not worth following, you're wasting a woman's time, and imply all these things about a man, when there are some men that God did not even give the opportunity to move forward. These guys something happened to them and they were snuffed out. Many men have died in war, on their deployments, had horrible things happen to them. Let's talk about men. Do you know the number of men who are in prison for not being able to make child support? This is a byproduct of this same marriage thing. I'm not criticizing marriage. A lot of men also are having kids outside of marriage and not paying child support. But the hammer that comes down on them is so hard. It's separating them from their children. It's bringing unhealthy men into their children's lives. It is traumatizing these people. There are so many other things that we can focus on. And many of these men do not even have the opportunity we have. So when we, as free men, as men who are alive, as men who get the opportunity of second chances, start bickering, fighting, pointing, and calling each other, you're a real man and you're not a real man, that is some bullshit. That is absolutely fucked up. And that's why I'm calling out the Brandons of the world. We have an opportunity here, yet we can't help but talk shit about each other. That is a waste of our manhood, as far as I'm concerned. Like I said, I lived by my decisions. I went through suffering. You will go through suffering as a man, and that suffering will transform you. You will rebuild your values from the ground up, and you will make decisions. And nobody can say a damn thing or do anything. Well, people can say things about your decisions, but nobody can do anything about your decisions. You know why? Because they are from your own living experience. You did not read them in a book. You didn't need some mentor to tell you about them. You didn't need a coach to tell you about them. You experienced this. Not only has my relationship outlasted that of my peers, but at the same time, many aspects of my life, from my fitness to my health to my finances, to my freedom, my ability to be free to do whatever I want whenever I want to, has placed me in what you would say is the 1% of men. In fact, one of my friends actually corrected me and said, shut up. You're actually in the 0 point something percentage of, he's an engineer, he knows the math. I was like, well, I did not know that. But all of these things came from the values that I built while going through the process of rebooting, going through the process of suffering and struggling, your brother in this struggle, to become a better man. I learned these things. So instead of asking, how do I do this? How do I take something from this that I find aspirational? You choose to spend precious time, which you should be spending, and this gentleman is going through bankruptcy, which you should be spending working your way out of bankruptcy. You're sharing your irrelevant opinion, which I have now made relevant by responding, you are welcome. Now, many people probably don't care why I made certain decisions, especially those who are just like, you know what? I really don't care. You're not married, JK. And in my eyes, men who are not married and who are living with women are living in sin. And that's horrible. But I'm going to elaborate why I made certain decisions in my life as a rebooted man, as a man who ended my out of control behavior with pornography, so that the thousands of men who hear this will benefit from it. So to keep it simple, this goes out to all the Brandons. I am incredibly proud of being in a relationship for 16 and a half years. The half is my goal, counts the months and the days. For 16 and a half years, because I am a rebooted man. I'm a former porn addict. I was destined to be a loser, to never be in a relationship. And the closest that I would ever get to truly being intimate would be to pay for sex. Maybe buy a pet. I said to pay for sex. That's pretty sad that that's the closest I would get, would be somebody faking intimacy for dollars for me. The reason I share my experience is to give hope to men. The men who are porn addicts, the men who are incels, the men who are victims of abuse and trauma, the men who don't believe that they stand a chance at quitting pornography and being in a relationship. For the people who've received that email and for the Brandons of the world who received the email, I don't expect for you to have even watched the video. Most men probably get triggered and they're like, 16 years? Your girlfriend? 16 years? Those two words do not deserve to be in the same sentence. And then you jumped to the conclusion that I was a boy and my woman is some sort of fool for choosing to be in a relationship with me. And I truly hope that if you're out there and you feel the same way, gentlemen, that no one is calling you a boy, that no one is calling you a deadbeat dad, that no one is calling you a loser, or your wife and your little princess, poor women because of the decisions you made in life. I certainly will not do that. Now, at no point, those of you who carry this mindset, again, when I say I'm speaking to the Brandons of the world, I know there are many men whose knee-jerk reaction is to be, but I don't want that. I want to be married. I want to have kids. I want to have a family unit. My brother, I know you do. And I wanted to as well. What, JK? What are you trying to say right now? All the things we want, all the ideals that we want, an ideal is something you see in the future, is idealized. It's the perfect version of what you think you want. And the way life works is when you get there, it's never the way you thought it was going to be. I mean, I wanted a Porsche Panamera, turbo, executive, and I wanted it to be black on black on black. Well, I got one on the date that I wanted one. It was on my vision board. But guess what? It wasn't black. It was white with a red interior. And it was a limited edition. That means that it was an investment, which means that I could have sold it for a profit. My ideal was one thing, and I got a different thing. If I wasn't going to use a materialistic example, I wanted to be in a loving relationship. I wanted to be in a relationship where I felt that I was worthy of love. But in my head, what that meant was marriage. In my head, what that meant was children, because that was the only way I knew how to get it. But that is not what God and the universe had in store for me. God and the universe had in store this woman for me, who was the one who was going to show me through a lot of patience and a lot of love that I was worthy of being loved. And I had a role to play in her life too. Sometimes as human beings, we are so damn ungrateful and we are so full of ego that we think that we can control what is meant for us in the future. We can guide ourselves towards our goals, but you must accept that your goal is not going to look exactly the way you thought it was going to look. And you must accept that. Just be thankful that the universe has laws that at least allow you to move towards the goal. I'm not mad that my Porsche is white, not black. I'm not mad that I'm not married and I don't have kids. I'm just grateful to be here, y'all. And you should be too. Wow. What are we, guys? What are we? Now, sometimes we need to think about some of the other alternatives that may not have occurred to us. Like maybe my partner doesn't want to be married. Maybe I and my partner are unable to have kids. Maybe I'm not ready to start talking about that on my podcast. I'm not going to talk about everything to you guys. Maybe we chose not to get married for legal reasons. Maybe I'm just such a baller that I'm just like, yo, it doesn't make sense. And she's like, you know what? It doesn't make sense either. You take care of me financially. And if this is going to make you feel some kind of way about a relationship because of your financial position, then I'm happy staying this way. Maybe we have a paper signed somewhere. Maybe in the state of Kansas, when you live with a woman for a certain amount of time, you're married anyway under common law marriage, and it doesn't even matter. Maybe we're married in another country. People don't even use their head. So the bottom line is a man could simply have asked another man, may I know why this hasn't happened? Because every client and every man who showed me a modicum of respect has asked, JK, can I ask you a question? May I know why XYZ? And I do the same thing. If I follow a man and I have some respect for him, I'll be like, hey, bro, do you mind if I ask you a question? Why are you not this or why are you not that? Are you gay? Is that why you're not? Like, I would ask questions out of respect, respectfully, of course. In the world of the Brandons, dating is easy. Because that's what he said. He said dating a woman for years is easy. His words. That dating a woman is easy. My brothers, dating is not easy. And you bet your ass that dating a woman in these United States, the same woman for 16 years, in the conservative Midwest, where everybody expects you to get married, a woman who was born and raised here, from a conservative family, and not marrying her for 16 years, that shit's not easy, I tell you that much. You also believe, and we're addressing the beliefs now, the sacred cows, we're going to slaughter them, that males who get married are men, and those who don't are boys. Wow. So any man who doesn't get married, let's say a man is hurt and betrayed, like some of our clients, and they have accomplished many amazing things in their life. They're still working through that trauma. The betrayal destroyed them. It brought up a trauma of a betrayal that they experienced when they were children. Are they boys? Are they boys? Oh, they are boys because they haven't overcome their trauma? They're not men? What of men who have been sexually abused? Many of you listening to this podcast have had something happen to you. What of men who were sexually abused? And because of that, they don't know how to be vulnerable and they don't know how to be intimate. What of men who have been sexually abused when they were young men or when they were boys by other men? And they're uncertain of their sexuality. They have HOCD, homosexual obsessive compulsive disorder. They're having sex with transgender individuals, exploring with other men, feeling a lot of shame and guilt because they don't believe they're homosexual. But this is a result of trauma. So they can't get married because they're afraid of hurting a woman. They're afraid of being found out. What, are they boys? And are the men who are doing those things behind closed doors, who are getting on apps, hooking up with other men, having sex with transgender individuals behind their wives' backs, are they men because they're married? Don't be fucking stupid, guys. Critical thinking is one of the values of Porn Reboot. I teach you how to think like that and not be a dumbass. Another sacred cow. Yeah, I don't even call this a sacred cow, but it's just dumb shit I hear guys say that women don't have a choice. All women want to get married. See, the Brandons of the world will send an email and they'll say things like, poor woman. That's what he ended it with. He said, poor woman. Ha. The interesting thing is he never asked, what does the woman want? Like, you think every woman wants to get married? What if a woman has been married before? What if a woman has children and she's thinking of her children's well-being before she brings a man into her life? And what's wrong if a woman doesn't want to get married? If you truly love the woman, and the woman says, I don't want to get married, but I don't want to see anybody else. I don't want to have sex with anyone else. I don't want to be emotionally close with anybody else. I want to be with you. What are you going to say? Well, if we can't put a ring on it, then I can't love you anymore. Then what kind of love was that? Again, I'm not implying that this is my situation. I'm just saying that I've worked with tens of thousands of men. And I've seen all sorts of examples in the world. The world does not revolve around the little bubble of the Brandons from Texas. Another one, that men who choose not to get married are unable to commit. And that is apparently a reflection of his entire life. Well, some of the Brandons of the world get divorced, are addicted to pornography for 20 years, get bankrupt due to their financial decisions. But does that mean that they are unable to commit? They are men who've built businesses, who have raised children and taken care of their children without being married. Does that mean they are unable to commit? Is that a reflection on their entire life? My brothers, we have got to do better. As men, we cannot be tearing each other down. This is some childish shit. Now, for those of you who are like, damn, JK, you're kind of like tongue-in-cheek, whatever, kind of going at this guy. I want to make it clear that I curate a community that does not have men like this. We do not like to work with men like this. We do not bring in men who are petty and who think this way. I would much rather nurture a man outside of the program, have conversations with him. There are many men I'm still having conversations with. Remember, last year, I did a series on a back and forth that I had with a professor. Now, this professor has been addicted to pornography and mailing me for 6 years. And I thought after I did that series with him that he would disappear. But oh no, last night, the professor emailed me again, asking for access to some tool he could use because he was dealing with withdrawals from his behavior with pornography. Bro is so fucking smart, from one of the best universities on the planet, still jerking off to pornography every week, still has a problem, but still has not sought help. And I'm still cool with him, because for some men, so fucking stubborn, it just takes time. So once in a while, I need to speak to those men out there who are not quite ready, who are still engaging in behaviors and thought processes that might be self-sabotaging. Many of these men, you are unhappy in your life because you are stubborn. You are losing your marriage because you are stubborn. You are still struggling with your behavior because you are stubborn. Another belief. Any woman who dates a man for 16 years or 15 years or 6 years without getting married to that man is a poor woman. Let me share something with you guys. I take care of my partner as if she's my wife. And there are certain countries that we travel to where we have to be married. I won't even go into too much detail with that. But I take care of all her financial needs. I have needs that she understands that I need. As an individual who thinks a certain way, behaves a certain way, I'm a man of a certain caliber. I work in a certain way. I have my peculiarities mentally. And this is a woman who is fine with all of those things. She actually puts up a lot. I'm a guy who can work 80, 90, over 100 hours a week. I can be absolutely hyper-focused and obsessed over my mission. There are a lot of times that she cannot hang out with me, that she cannot express that, have that love language of attention and quality time put on her the way she should, but she still stays. And as a result of that, I appreciate it. Not only do I dedicate the free time that I have to this woman, but I also take care of almost all her financial needs. She makes her own money. She's very successful in her own right. But I take care of everything, and her family is my family, which means when it comes time for her parents to retire, I, JK, will take care of that, just as I will take care of my parents, her mom, her dad. Her family members will be taken care of, which is more than can be said than some of y'all out there who are married, much less those of you who are married and bankrupt and addicted to pornography. Tell me this. Is she a poor woman? And would she get any of these things if she was married? I'll let you answer that question. Men who don't have children or who don't have a family unit are unfit to be followed. Really. I have so many clients who would give anything to be able to have children, but they cannot because they're infertile, and that is okay. I know men who don't want to have children because they endured abusive childhoods. I grew up in a family, to be vulnerable with y'all, where I had the most protective parents. Both were medical professionals. My father had his own private practice. He was a very good man, a very generous man, grew up in a very poor area. In fact, he was generous to a fault, to the point that his relationship with my mother could not work out. Because my father was a gynecologist, OBGYN, who people would come into his private practice, and when they could not pay him, he would let them pay him in kind. If they owned a business and we lived in a semi-rural area, he would take money in kind. He would take like stuff from the farmers. They would give him food. And my mother could not believe that in that day and age, and that was like the late 80s and the 90s, that my father was still doing something like that. In that era of technology, he was still doing things in kind. And maybe I should talk to my dad one day. He's still alive, and ask him why he did that. But I do know he was a very generous soul, and it cost him a lot. He did not ever fully wrap his head. In fact, you know what? Deep down, I also kind of think he was a little bit of a socialist communist. But even in the home of educated, generous, compassionate parents, there was sexual abuse. Not from my parents, but from people who were close to and around us. There was a lot of pain. There was a lot of financial strife. My mother had to leave for many years, for 8 years. She had to travel and go somewhere else to make money so that she could make sure that her children had a future. She at least made enough to pay for my first year of college. And then she told me, JK, you are on your own, boy. Like, I could only save enough for you to start college, but you're a man now. Go figure your shit out, which is how I ended up selling books door to door. She was like, I need to take care of your baby sisters. They're going to graduate soon, and they will be on the streets. They will not go to college. They will not do anything if I do not do something. And she went back to sacrificing. And I watched that work ethic. I watched that sacrifice. I watched my parents, who were beautiful human beings, physically and internally. I watched them being worn the fuck down by a family. I'm not saying that they were wrong. I'm not saying they shouldn't have had us. I think many of the men that we have helped to end the out-of-control behavior would be like, no, I'm glad your parents had you, JK. I would hope they think so. Very egotistic of me, but that is an egotistical thought from me. But they suffered, and it tore their relationship apart, and they made so many sacrifices. Now, I'm not saying this is the reason why I don't have children, but if you grew up in a place where you had competent, hardworking, educated, loving parents who wanted to protect you, and despite everything they did to protect you, my parents were also aware of sexual abuse. They told us to be very careful of strangers and all of those things. In spite of all of those things, your daughters get sexually abused multiple times over a period of years. Your son becomes a hardcore pornography addict. What do? You think that I'm the sort of person who would just jump happily into having children so that I could prove that I was a man, that I would build a family unit? Again, I'm not saying that I'm not over the trauma or that is one of the reasons why I don't want to have children. I have 2 or 3 other reasons why I would not have children, or why I don't have children yet. But I want men to be able to be a little bit more compassionate and have empathy. It goes both ways. Many men sometimes reach out and say, like, I would love to do what you do. I would love to be a coach. I'd love to be this and I'd love to be that. And I tell them sometimes it's easier to just go out there and sell something and start a business and be a multimillionaire than it is to do something like this. Because if you're going to do this and you're not going to give a shit about people, and you're not going to be compassionate, and you're not going to be loving, and you're not going to know how to draw the line and call men out, then you better not do this, because this cannot be done without compassion. And anybody who does it without compassion is fucking scamming you. Now, let's take a moment for all the Brandons to call out some of the things that actually can happen in marriage, some facts about marriage. And then, any man who's weathered 7 to 16 years, go double that shit, who has weathered that number of years in a relationship can come back and respond to me. Actually, the only people who are allowed to respond to me on anything are only men who've been in a relationship for 15 or 16 years. Same relationship, same woman. 60% of married men watch pornography. Now, so much for, sexual commitment, the sexual commitment of matrimony. Most marriages, and the number is up to as high as 70%, will end in divorce. And this is regardless of how long the marriage lasts. That means even if you're married for 30 years or 40 years, there's still a 70% chance that your marriage is going to end in divorce. I am not saying you shouldn't get married. I think marriage, for some people, is a very admirable thing. And I have friends that I think the only way they would have been happy in life was by getting married. So this is just to let you guys know that I'm not against marriage. But I want to say this for the Brandons, the guys who are headed to divorce, who are getting divorced, who your marriage is falling apart because you're a porn addict and you're stubborn as fuck and you don't want to get help. So now you're going to lose your marriage. But you're still out there listening to the marriage bros and saying like, I'm a real man. I'm a trad man. I'm a real American because I have a wife and I have kids and I have a marriage and I put the marriage first and I take care of my kids and I sacrifice and I watch porn. Shut the fuck up and get the facts straight so that you can at least treat your marriage with the respect it deserves. 80% of marriages, my brother, are not monogamous. Listen, if you're married and you fantasize about having sex with other women to the point of watching videos of them fucking, and your wife catches you and emotionally she says she feels betrayed because of what you do, guess what, bud? You're not in a monogamous relationship. That is not monogamy. You know what monogamy actually is? What it was actually designed for? Monogamy was designed to be lifelong. You get together with one human being and you're with that human being for the rest of your life. This is the way it was across cultures. For many cultures, when a woman's husband died, she did not get remarried. She wore white, she wore black, and she was alone for the rest of her life. Multiple unconnected cultures, because monogamy was for life. For life, my brother. Having sex prior to marriage, dating and being sexually active before marriage, getting remarried after divorce is not monogamy. Not biblically, not in Islam, and certainly not in your Webster's dictionary. Wow. Are you shocked yet? So what we have today should actually be called, more accurately, serial marriage or something like that. Let me end this, gentlemen, by sharing a few things that, in my opinion, are more important than marriage. Yes, there are some things in life, in relationships, that are more important than marriage. And take this from a man who has sat down and heard the deepest, darkest secrets of thousands and thousands of married men. These are secrets they would never tell their therapist. Number one, spending your life with a loving partner who complements your personality and your goals. As far as I'm concerned, that beats marriage for the sake of marriage's sake. That beats marriage for the sake of being a man or a good fucking example. Number two, choosing to spend your life on a mission. Listen, I and my partner have our visions. I have a mission. I am supported in it. We do things together as a unit. When one of you, preferably you, the man, has a mission and is supported in that mission, and that mission is helping other human beings, that is more important as far as I'm concerned than getting married for the sake of being married. Listen, fool, if you got married because you were too lazy and you were scared to face the fact that you didn't have a mission, or you don't know how to have a mission, or you couldn't find any purpose, so your default was marriage, you shut the fuck up and you stay married. You don't comment on anyone else's shit because you don't have a mission. It doesn't make you worse than anybody, and it doesn't make people who have a mission better than you. It just makes y'all different. Nobody comments on the other person's shit. Next, number three, making sure that your partner is on a spiritual journey with you. Now, this one's optional. I'm not saying you should do any of these things. I'm just saying that if you are a spiritually inclined person like I am, I'm not religious, I don't believe in any dogmas, and I don't go to church. But I believe that there is a God. I believe that there is an intelligent being that is greater than anything that we can imagine, that put together this wonderful world that we live in, and that guides us. There is a hand guiding us, and we cannot see behind that hand. It moves fast, and our lives are slow. Occasionally, we get a glimpse of this hand, or besides the hand, and it blows our mind what we are able to see. Those of you who are so spiritually inclined, if you can find yourself a life partner of the opposite energy, feminine if you are the masculine, who can enhance your spiritual journey, whom you learn from because you are spending time with one human being, going deeper into the experience, bouncing off the experiences of life, having spiritual accountability with another human being, decade after decade and year after year. As far as I'm concerned, my opinion, which you do not need to agree with, That is more relevant than marriage for the sake of putting a fucking ring on it and making everybody happy and going like, look, neighbors, we're married too. Dumbass. The fourth one, having a partner who encourages you to be the best version of yourself. This is a repetition of the other one, but for men who are rebooting, listen, if you have somebody in your life that you can encourage them and they allow you to encourage them, and they look at you and they can highlight in your darkest moments the best version of yourself. They can remind you that even though the world treats you a certain way, that you are worthy of love. That is more important than marriage and kids for the sake of fucking doing it, Brandons of the world. And finally, if you can find yourself a partner who will not quit on you, and here is a key phrase, even when you have quit on yourself. Let me remind you of something. In my program, every single man who joins the intensive program, when they join, I tell everybody something. I will never quit on you until you quit on yourself. I say it again. I will never quit on you. But if you quit on yourself and you're like, listen, man, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this. I'm going to be a loser for life. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop. I will still encourage you. But listen, I know where to draw the line. If a man says, I quit on myself, even when we're giving him all the help, and we try to encourage you, I got to let you go and let God and let the universe. But a partner, a life partner who will not quit on you, even when you're like, I can't do it anymore. And they're like, fuck you, I'm still going to be here. That person, somebody that's worth it. That, as far as I'm concerned, is worth more than marriage for the sake of marriage. In my world, that is true love. And everyone else who agrees with the things I just listed out, including the Brandons of the world, they can go fuck themselves. But you know what the funny thing is? Everyone else is fucking themselves and then applying to my program to help them stop fucking themselves so hard. Now, listen, I would gladly stay on longer and make this an hour-long podcast, but I think those who needed to hear this message have heard it. I have actual paying clients to spend time with. To the Brandons of the world, with all the love, all the compassion in my heart, stop being a dick. I mean it. I'm here to help you. If you don't like receiving my emails, unsubscribe. If you don't like my vibe on these podcasts, it is a free country. There is something called free speech, for now at least. Then unsubscribe. Stop receiving the podcast. Go listen to somebody who says shit you want to hear. And if you ever need my support in your career, getting back on your feet, ending your out-of-control behavior with pornography, learning how to date, build and maintain a long-term, loving, spiritually based, mission-based relationship, then I am here to help. I'm your brother in the struggle. I'll talk to you later.
I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Porn Reboot podcast. I'll speak to you later on in the week. If you found this episode helpful, here are 4 ways I can help you with your out-of-control sexual behavior for free. The first way is to grab a free copy of my book, Confessions of a Porn Addict, 7 Secrets of Porn-Free Men at elevatedrecovery.org, or visit the link in the description below this episode. The second way is, if you're not sure where to start, but you'd like to learn more about my team and I, if you'd like to spend time with like-minded professionals and business owners who are controlling their behavior, then join our free and confidential group, the Porn Reboot Group on Facebook. There's a link to join in the description below this episode. The third way is if you need help right now because you have a burning issue, your behavior with pornography is hurting you mentally or emotionally, you're about to lose your relationship, you want to live up to your potential, be an authentic man, and free yourself from shame, guilt, and underachieving, then click on the link in the description below this episode that says free coaching call. And the fourth way is to leave us a 5-star review if you enjoy this podcast, so that we can reach more men who are struggling in silence and bring back the lessons we learn from coaching them to freedom.